On Instagram, a post. She's enjoying the talks. Nice one. So our first speaker for Act 2, okay, has travelled all the way from America. He's a 4-time winning best-selling author. He travels all around the world. He's a performance coach for pro, college, and high school athletes. So please put a big, warm welcome to Roy Red.
How you guys doing? How you guys doing? Give me the energy. Give me the energy. All right. So, here's a picture of me. I travel all around the world. I coach professional athletes. I speak all around the world. I get to tell my story. I get to inspire and instruct people like you to live better lives or improve their business. And I got to do all of that after I learned just one thing. And I want to teach you guys that one thing today. But my life hasn't always been that way. You know, growing up, I grew up in a small town called Gardena, California. And in Gardena, it's really close to Compton, California, and Watts, California. And you guys don't know where that is, but that's in the USA. And those are rated in the top 10 most dangerous cities in the USA and still rated that. And in the 1990s, where I grew up, the statistics showed that if you grew up in that age, a black male would either be dead or go to jail by the time they were 19 years old. And coming up in that dangerous life, in that dangerous area, I also wasn't that smart. I didn't even learn to read till I was in the 3rd grade, which for you guys is the 4th year, right? I didn't even know how to read, and my teachers used to make fun of me. They used to say things like, they used to set me up and make me read in front of the whole class to try to embarrass me. I had one teacher tell me, you know, you're going to end up dead or in jail anyway, so what are you even going to school for? And he said, if you don't end up dead or in jail, then you're going to just end up staying at home the rest of your life. And so fast forward, my teachers were right. You know, I played basketball. I wanted to play. It was my first dream to play in the National Basketball Association called the NBA. Who knows what the NBA is? So that's where the best basketball players in the world is. And I actually work with those guys today with their confidence and their mental performance. But it was my dream. But my coaches told me that I was too short. I'm only 5'10". You can't cut it. And so fast forward, my teacher was right, my coaches were right. I quit basketball, and I ended up depressed, and I ended up working as a paramedic. And as a paramedic, you work on an ambulance, and you just help people that are sick, right? And so one day I was working at this bad ambulance company. It was just a bad job, and I was running late to work. And before I was running late, I was actually asleep, and I had this nightmare, and the nightmare was that I was depressed. I was working a dead-end job. I could barely pay my bills. And then when I woke up, that dream was actually my reality. And that day I was asleep, and I remember I got this voice in my head. It told me, Roy, wake up. And I remember just shaking my head like, huh? And it was like, Roy, wake up. And it said it real forcefully, like, today is going to be the day that changes your life. And I got up, kind of brushed my teeth, and it was actually a cold 40-degree morning that day, which is super cold for me, especially in California. We're used to 70 being the lowest and sunny days every day, right? And so I remember there was ice on the windshield, and I drove this ugly 1987 Honda Civic. And this one's actually better than the one I had. The one I had was, like, rusted out. It didn't even have a floor in it. Has anybody seen the cartoon The Flintstones? So in the Flintstones, they would run because there was no floor in there, and they would run in the car, right? I actually had to do that to start my car. And so I paid $200 for this car, which is it's like 130 pounds, I believe. So I was getting up, running late, and I could just hear my boss's voice in my head saying, Roy, if you're late one more time, we got to let you go. We got to fire you. And I just couldn't afford my bills anymore. I couldn't afford to get fired. So I hopped in this car like the Flintstones. I ran, hopped in, I turned it on, and I was on my way. And when I was on my way to work, I was running late, so I decided to get in the diamond lane. And in America, the diamond lane is the lane where you can pass everyone up on the left-hand side, and everybody else is just stuck in traffic on the right. So I'm passing everyone up, but in able to ride in the diamond lane, you have to have 2 or more people with you. That's the law over there. And so there's this lane, and there's a wall here, and then there's everyone stuck in traffic. And so I'm on my way. I'm making good time. I'm like, yes, I'm going to make it to work, right? I'm not going to get fired. And I remember listening to my mother's voice singing in my head because I didn't have a radio in the car. I couldn't afford a radio. So I would listen to her voice singing. And I was listening to her voice singing. And then I started to smell smoke. And as I started to smell smoke, I was like, what's going on? And there was nothing between me and the engine. Like, it was just, the engine was just right there because it was a big rusty hole right there, right? And so then the car started to die. And the car started to die, and I'm inside of the diamond lane, and there's a wall here, so I can't move the car to the side. And I didn't want to get a ticket. And I was like, this can't be happening. And so the car started to die. I get out of the car, and I did what I did all the time in my life. I looked behind me to see if someone could help me. And I remember when I looked behind me, it was this beautiful young lady in her $100,000 black Mercedes, and she looked at me, and she just shrugged her shoulders like, I can't help you. I remember turning around like, God, and I looked up, and when I looked up, I had 2.7 miles to go. I don't know what that is in kilometers, but I had 2.7 miles to go until I can put the car on the side of the road. And I started to push this car by myself. And the only thing that gave me the energy to push this car was I was just so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed that the Channel 7 news chopper was above me because the news would go up and down the freeway and report accidents. And they reported me like, guy in Diamond Lane holding up traffic. This is the reason why traffic is held up in the Diamond Lane today. And so as I'm pushing this car, I just had tears in my eyes. And I said, Roy, why are you here? Why do you self-sabotage yourself? And I didn't like the answer to that question. And the answer was, it's because I created that. I created my reality in that moment. And